This is Dr. Paul Thomlinson from Compass Health Network, and we're doing a continuing series of podcasts aimed at inspiring hope and promoting wellness. Here, we're aiming to create an evidence-informed understanding of many of the problems and issues we face in these challenging times we're living through. I'm doing at least one episode each month tied to our calendar of observances for the year. Now, May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and we're going to take a look into the first part of our mission statement. Inspire hope by considering the psychology of hope, its many meanings, and how it might be cultivated if you're in short supply. Now, some of you may roll your eyes and some of you may cheer, but did you know that there are many researchers, philosophers, educators, theologians, etc., looking into hope? What is it? How does it work? What are the effects of hope on our hearts, minds, and bodies? What happens when we don't have it? How is it inspired, as in our mission statement? Or how is it created and nurtured when it's in short supply? These are all the kinds of questions that philosophers, theologians, and more recently, psychologists and social scientists have been addressing. But before we get to all that, I want you to hear some other hopeful voices. In preparing for this episode, I asked quite a few folks, mostly youth and young adults, some of whom are in mental health services, some of whom are not, some older people from the community, and some staff members at Compass. What is it that gives you hope? Let's hear what some of them had to say, starting and ending with my friends from Compass, Jamie, Jen, and Katrina.
What gives me hope is change, progress. Sometimes we're just planting the seed with folks and we don't get the opportunity to see them blossom. But sometimes we do hear about that. We do get to see that.
My connection to others and knowing that I'm not alone. And my fundamental belief in something greater than what is troubling me, and that no matter what, I will be okay.
The fact that I have gotten better, like me now compared to me a year ago, completely different people.
Then you see all the beautiful nature like Grand Canyon or the Rocky Mountains or just trees or squirrels running around in the trees out in the park. It's positive and it's welcoming into your life.
Yeah, it sounds like you find hope around you in a lot of places, and that's a good skill to have.
One thing that gives me hope is, the knowledge that humans are very stubborn creatures. And one thing we have always managed to do is that when there is an overarching threat, we usually put aside our differences and work together to solve it.
These kids give me hope. They're so bright. And I think back to when I was that age, I don't think I thought much about any of the things they're dealing with.
For me, what gives me hope is people. Just people helping each other out. Like, you always see the bad things in the world, but there'll be one person that'll, for example, pay for everyone to meet like 100 people behind you at a McDonald's. Like, just the small, tiny things, the good deeds that people do, and just all those things add up to help make this world a better place.
When I see kindness and just generosity and a willingness to do things for people that are unexpected, that really touches my heart, and it gives me hope that not everything is negative, not everything is terrible, and there's a lot of good people in the world, but we got to open our eyes to see it.
Remember those voices and what they said. They're illustrations of so many things I want to say about hope. So what is it, this thing called hope? Obviously, we don't hope for what is certain. We don't hope for that which we're holding in our hands or seeing right in front of our eyes. Hope is about possibility, not certainty. Dr. Sarah Stitzline from the University of Cincinnati argues that hope is a set of mental and emotional habits that form a basic disposition toward possibility and change for betterment. So we can think of hope as essentially a desire for something plus a sense of possibility. Aristotle called hope the waking man's dream, which sounds kind of minimizing. But the writer D.H. Lawrence put it this way: All people dream, but not equally. Those who dream by night in the dusty recesses of their mind wake in the morning to find that it was vanity. But the dreamers of the day are dangerous people, for they dream their dreams with open eyes and make them come true. I love that. Napoleon Hill said, "The starting point of all achievement is desire, and that desire is the flame of hope, the spark which provides your motivation for action, which in turn produces your results." So in reality, we can think of hope as action, really. We sometimes hear that love is a verb, it's an action. Well, so is hope. It's desire plus the possibility plus the plan. As Elizabeth Bernstein put it in the Wall Street Journal earlier this year, people who are hopeful don't just have a goal or wish, they have a strategy to achieve it and the motivation to implement their plan. Speaking of strategy, now you may have heard some hard-nosed business person or politician opining that hope is not a strategy. In fact, that little catchphrase is taking on the air of undisputed wisdom and accepted certainty. It also happens to be dead wrong, in my opinion. To paraphrase Vince Lombardi, hope is not everything, it's the only thing. Hope is not just a strategy, it's at the heart of all the successes that we've achieved in the grand experiment that is America over all these years. I'm not talking about hope based on illusion, delusions, fictions, false assumptions, or narratives. Of course, hope based on those things is not healthy, not likely to lead to a better future for anyone. But the idea of hope as our guiding principle, psychologically and otherwise, is worth rediscovering. If we want to find ways to deal with the huge challenges ahead of us personally, in our families, in our country, and really in our interconnected world, it's worth revisiting hope. As I said before, hope is based on what's possible. Maybe not even what's highly probable, mind you, but possible. Hope is clear-eyed and recognizes the reality that failure happens. Success is not assured. The laws of physics don't change, and we need wisdom to figure out when to stick it out and persevere, and when maybe we should try another approach, pivot to something else. That's all hope, too. Hope doesn't often show us a clearly lit path of certainty, but it does guide us through twists and turns. It gives us enough light to take the next step or two, and that can make all the difference in the world. Hope supports realistic optimism, which is a necessary part of persisting in the face of difficulties. Optimists are wicked good at solving thorny problems, the kind of problems that pessimists say can't be solved. So hope is so much more than a strategy. A better analogy is one I learned from oncologist Dr. Jerome Gropman's book, The Anatomy of Hope: How People Prevail in the Face of Illness. He writes, "Hope is rooted in reality. True hope has no room for delusion." He concludes the book with a bold statement that, quote, "Hope, I have come to believe, is as vital to our lives as the very oxygen that we breathe," unquote. Hope is not a strategy then, it's more like air. So it should be clear why it's worth studying, cultivating, inspiring hope. In Dante's Divine Comedy, the entrance to hell is marked with the phrase, "Abandon hope, all ye who enter here," for good reason. That's a pretty good description of a living hell, having abandoned all hope. Hope for a better life, hope for an end to suffering, or at least sufficient grace and comfort to be able to bear intractable pain and suffering. Hope for solutions to our problems, hope to help and comfort others. Hope is worth studying, cultivating, and inspiring because the lack of it is devastating to our emotional, physical, and spiritual lives. Now, there's a lot to be said for behaving as if. Not like Alicia Silverstone's character Cher in the movie Clueless, but behaving as if you have hope, when your hope tank is low or on E. What I mean is, of course, it's possible to feel hopeless and to take action anyway. In a weird, or maybe paradoxical way, it's through taking action despite not feeling happy about the situation that a deeper kind of happiness can arise. You don't have to wait for motivation to get moving, and you certainly don't need to wait for the feeling of despair to go away before you decide to do something. What would you do if you were hopeful? Behave that way, as if. One of the great lessons of social psychology research is that if you behave that way long enough, your feelings are very likely to follow. Pretty neat trick, huh? So what do hopeful people do? Well, one thing is they invest in the future, near and long term, in a million different ways. One of my favorite sayings, attributed to Elton Trueblood, goes like this: "A society grows great when old men plant trees in whose shade they know they shall never sit." I also very much like Nicole Hassoun's perspective on hope, or at least a certain kind of hope. She says it gives us reason to strive to overcome seemingly insurmountable problems. Hope can give rise to what she calls the virtue of creative resolve. The virtue of creative resolve, which is a fundamental commitment to finding creative solutions to what appear to be impossible problems. This involves a lot of things, including a search for new information, seeking out creative ways forward. A lack of hope shuts down creativity and vision for new solutions to our big problems. Hope is like air. So given the central role of hope in a life well lived and in Compass's mission statement, I'd like to begin to close with some suggestions for cultivating hope. Some of these I lean on very heavily myself, and I need them to stay hopeful in challenging times. So if you aren't feeling hopeful, that's okay. Hopefulness can be developed, and maybe one of these tips will help you get started. At least I hope so. Reframe negative thoughts. We all have them, and before we can reframe them, we have to identify them. The ants running around in our brains. Automatic negative thoughts, ANT. Unquestioned, unchecked. There are good ways to do this, but honestly, a good therapist is such an invaluable tool in helping identify and counterbalance those ants, automatic negative thoughts. But in general, think about it. Instead of ruminating on the bad, what's not working, or what you don't like, shift your focus. It's your choice to do so. Second thing, make self-care a priority. I mean, it's essential, right? We need to make it a priority, meaning it needs to be at the top of our list of things to do. Why? Well, for one thing, it helps you do hard things, like being hopeful in trying times. Plus, when you take care of yourself, it then gives you the ability to be there for others. You can't help someone if you aren't yourself doing very well, right? But to turn that on its head just a little bit, there's good research also showing that compassion and taking care of others is also one of the best forms of self-care that we can do. Being a light, a beacon of hope for someone else, well, there's not much better for your soul than that. So find a way to do it every single day, as many times a day as possible. So there's that duality of life showing up again. Taking care of ourselves is essential, and perhaps this is true mostly because it recharges our batteries so that we can take care of others, which completes the cycle of shared, positive, hopeful energy. Third way of cultivating hope is to show gratitude. Now, gratitude fuels appreciation, and it's linked to lower levels of stress and lower levels of depression. But also, as I've said before, gratitude is a great way to access hope. Whether that's writing your gratitude journal or expressing gratitude to someone else for something they've done or something they've given you or whatever. Gratitude is all wrapped up in hope and vice versa. But remember, feeling grateful and not expressing it to another is a little bit like getting someone a gift, wrapping it nicely, and never giving it to them. Number 4, connect with people that make you feel good. Build yourself a tribe of people that fuel your hopefulness and encourage you when you're feeling less than hopeful. If I heard one thing most consistently in my questioning of a lot of folks for this podcast about what gives them hope, it was so often simply other human beings. Someone else who showed them kindness, someone who took the time to listen to them, someone who saw the best in them, someone who was willing to stay with them through the hard times and always have their back. Connecting with others, even one other, is some of the most powerful and hopeful medicine we have as human beings. And this is also an opportunity to quote one of my favorite movies, Tombstone, in which Doc Holliday, near his death, says to Wyatt Earp, "You're the only human being in my entire life that ever gave me hope." Now, Val Kilmer was robbed by the Academy that year. He should have been nominated and won Best Supporting Actor, but I digress. But remember, you can be the Wyatt Earp to someone's Doc Holliday. And I'm your Huckleberry. Number 5, be kind. A simple act of kindness really can go a long way. And when someone is in a dark place, one kind gesture has the potential to instill hope in them. You can find dozens of ideas via the Random Acts of Kindness Foundation at randomactsofkindness.org. I remember posting last year on Facebook about how much hope in humanity can be purchased for under $5 when a random stranger in front of me at Starbucks bought me my iced Americano. It gave me hope and a well-being boost that can't be fully explained by the extra espresso shot. So be kind. As they say, everyone is fighting a great battle that you know nothing about. And finally, as a way of cultivating hope, connect back with your purpose, or to your purpose. For me, when my life has meaning and purpose, it fuels my sense of hope. As I too often say, when we have a solid why, we can walk through almost any how. So what is your purpose? Do you have a mission statement for your life? Cheesy? No, I don't think so. Something you can evaluate every single action against? Think about it, write it down, and keep it always before you, inside you. That exercise by itself can help you cope in difficult or uncertain times, of which we have no shortage these days. As I've said, some believe that hope is not a strategy, but I think it's our only strategy. It's what inspires us and expands our sense of what's possible. It motivates us to take action, keep moving forward. The simple but powerful role of hope is this. It gives us something to look forward to, and everyone needs something to look forward to. But it also literally provides the path forward and the resolve to walk that path. And that's where we're going, right? Forward. Remember, that's why the windshield is so big and the rearview mirror is so tiny, because we need to keep looking ahead. That's where we're going. That's where our future is. That's where our hope lies.